Love in the Fast Lane, Chapter 11. The shop fell silent. Trey stood in the middle of the Charlotte Motor Speedway testing facility, pit box monitors displaying a suspension geometry he'd spent 3 hours analyzing. The data was clean. The setup was perfect. Everything was locked in for the upcoming race. None of it mattered. He'd been staring at his phone for 20 minutes. Scrolling through articles he'd explicitly told Chelsea to keep away from him. The Reddit threads, the thesis mockery, the photographs of Sam's townhouse with paparazzi spotted here captions, the comments dissecting her face, her body, her motivations. The impact of what he'd done slammed into him like a wall at full throttle. Sam was right. She'd been right when she said this was his life. But it wasn't hers to sacrifice. He'd waltzed into that victory lane, intoxicated on adrenaline, and the need to claim her publicly, and he'd blown up her entire existence. The quiet engineer who valued precision and control now had 40 million strangers examining her every choice, every photo, every word she'd ever written. He'd done that. Not on purpose, not maliciously, but with the same bulldozing force he brought to everything else. He moved forward at full speed and assumed everyone else could keep up. Samantha had told him to stop, and he'd heard her voice on the phone, cracking on the words, "I need to breathe," and it had sounded like something breaking. Trey pulled up his contacts and called his sister. "I need you to clear my schedule," he said, before Chelsea could offer a greeting. "Everything for the next 2 days." "We have sponsor obligations, the team meeting at..." "Everything, Chelsea. I don't care. Cancel it. Reschedule it. Make it work." "Trey, what's happening?" "I am leaving in an hour. Private charter to Raleigh." The pause that followed was heavy with the weight of his sister knowing him well enough not to ask unnecessary questions. "I'll handle it. Do you need..." "Just handle it. Thank you." He hung up and headed for the airport. The flight to Raleigh was an hour of Trey sitting in a leather seat, replaying every moment of the past 6 days like pit box telemetry. Meeting Sam at the side of the road, the dinner, the lake house, the kitchen, Texas. In Texas, he'd let himself believe he could keep both things, the racing life and her, that she'd adapt to the cameras, the attention, the chaos, that his money and status could smooth over the rough edges. That was the most arrogant assumption he'd made since deciding to kiss her in front of 60,000 people. By the time the wheels touched down in RDU, the sun had already begun its descent toward the horizon. The rental car was waiting. Trey had called ahead to arrange it, not wanting to deal with a driver today. He needed to be alone with his thoughts, to figure out what the hell he was going to say to make this right. He didn't have an answer by the time he pulled into her driveway. This was the real world, not lake houses or private jets, but functional housing for people with regular jobs. He stood outside her door for 5 minutes, gathering himself. The knock he delivered was firm, but not aggressive, a request for entry, not a demand. Nothing. He knocked again. Through the door he could hear movement, shuffling, the sound of something being set down quickly. The door opened a crack, the chain lock still engaged. Sam's eye appeared in the gap, widened with shock. "Trey?" "Hi." He suddenly felt 17 years old again, terrified and fumbling. "Can I come in?" She closed the door. For a moment he thought he'd locked him out permanently. Then the chain rattled, and the door swung open. Sam looked demolished. Her hair was down, uncombed, falling around her shoulders in waves. She was wearing an oversized t-shirt and sweatpants with a hole in the thigh. Her eyes were swollen from crying. The pale green dulled to something closer to gray. She looked like she'd been crying for 2 days straight. "How did you..." she started. "I made Chelsea cancel everything," he said, closing the door behind him. The apartment smelled like old coffee and the particular staleness of air that comes from windows staying shut too long. "I flew down. I need to say something." "Trey, I don't think..." "Please," he interrupted, and the single word seemed to deflate her resistance. "Just listen. That's all I'm asking." She wrapped her arms around herself, drawing into a posture of self-protection. They were standing in a small living room that barely had space for the furniture crammed into it. A sofa, the color of old denim, a KB top with books and autocross forms printed out. The place was small and functional and completely authentic, and it ached for him. "I destroyed something," he started, forcing the words out. "Something genuine. And I did it carelessly, without thinking about the cost to you. I saw victory lane and saw a chance to claim you publicly, and I didn't stop to think about what that would actually mean for your life." "Trey." "I'm not done," he said gently. "The worst part is that what I was so desperate to prove, that you weren't just some pit lizard or a corporate interest, was the very thing my impulse took from you. I took your peace. I took your privacy. I turned you into a story instead of letting you just be Sam." She sank onto the arm of the sofa, her shoulders curving inward. "I can't do this. I can't be that person, the one everyone's watching." "I know, and I'm not asking you to change. I'm asking you to forgive me for assuming you could without warning or preparation. It's not about forgiveness. It's about..." She looked up at him, and the devastation in her eyes was a physical thing. "I don't recognize myself. I read things about me written by people who don't know me. I feel like I'm broken into 1,000 pieces. That's my fault. All of it. The media frenzy, the speculation, the invasion. I created that environment the moment I decided to make you public. You made a choice in a moment, and I had to pay for that choice for the next 72 hours. I know." "Do you?" she stuttered. "Do you really? Because you live in a world where cameras following you is normal, where people knowing where business is expected. You had years to build the walls that let you function in that chaos. I had 0 seconds. You're right. And I don't want..." Her voice cracked. "I don't want to be that woman who resents you for the life you live. But right now, I do. I resent that your victory cost me my anonymity. I resent that I can't go to work without people staring at me. I resent that my home address is floating around in the internet." Trey let her rage, understanding that this was necessary, the spilling out of everything that had been bottled up. When she finally stopped, breathing hard, he spoke carefully. "I can't fix what's already public. I can't undo the attention, but I can promise you this. No more surprises. No more public declarations without your consent. No more forcing you into my world on my timeline." "Okay," she said flatly. "I love you, Sam." The words hung in the air between them. Her breath caught audibly. "That's not fair. You can't use that right now. You can't." "I'm not using it as a weapon. I'm saying it because it's true, and because it means I want to do this right, not rushed. I want you in my life, but I want to build that with you as a team, not as something I impose on you." Sam sank back onto the arm of the sofa, her legs no longer supporting her. "Trey, your life is public. Your dating life is public. If I'm with you, I'm automatically public." "Not necessarily." He leaned forward slightly. "What if we keep this private? Just for now, just while you adjust. No posts, no public appearances together. Just calls and time when you're ready." She looked at him, and he watched hope war with fear in her expression. How long would that last? "As long as you need it to." He paused, considering whether to say the next part, whether she was ready, but he needed her to understand the full picture. "Look, I know this is hard. I know I've turned your life upside down. But I also know I can't keep living like this, performing for cameras, dating women who are only interested in the celebrity. I can't do it anymore, Sam. You showed me what it feels like to have someone actually see you, and I can't go back. So what are you saying?" Trey gathered his courage. "I'm saying that if you're willing to work through this with me, I will do everything in my power to make it manageable. And if you need me to get out of your life completely, I'll do that too. But I won't do it until the season ends. I can't ask my team to adjust to a new driver mid-year. But after that, after the season is finished, we'll talk about what comes next, including possibly stepping back from racing entirely, if that's what it takes." Sam's eyes widened. You can't give up racing. I can, if it means having you, Trey said simply. I've won championships. I've made more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. But I haven't made you smile like you did in that Corvette. I haven't had someone trust my instincts the way you trust me about racing. That's worth more than any trophy. You're a race car driver. It's who you are. It's what I do. But it's not who I am. And I'd rather be someone you want to be with than a guy behind the wheel of a car. Sam stood up and walked to the window, pulling the blinds open slightly. This is a lot, she said softly. I know. I need time to process. I know. And I need to know that if we do this, you're not going to push me. I'm not going to wake up on the front page of Sports Illustrated again. You won't, Trey promised. I meant what I said. Private. Just us. However long you need. She turned back to face him. Can I ask you something? Anything. When you were in that car on Sunday, when you made that slide in turn 3, were you thinking about me? Trey thought about the question carefully, needing to be honest. Not thinking exactly, but you were everywhere. In the decisions I was making, in the chances I was taking. The fact that you were watching made me want to push harder, made me want to show you what I was capable of. That scares me, Sam admitted, that I might be a distraction. You're not a distraction. You're the reason I stopped being distracted. Before you, I was just going through the motions, winning because it was what I did, not because I wanted it. But in Texas, I wanted it. I wanted to win for you. That doesn't make you a distraction. That makes me your North Star. She wrapped her arms around herself again. I need to think. Okay. But not alone, she added quietly. I don't want you to leave. Trey felt something in his chest settle, an easing of the tension that had been coiled there since he realized what his kiss had cost her. I'm not going anywhere. She tilted her head toward the bedroom. There's a guest room or couch, whatever. The couch is fine. But Sam, she looked at him, her swollen eyes reflecting the dim light of the apartment. I'm going to spend the next 2 days earning your forgiveness. And then I'm going to spend the rest of the season making sure you never regret giving me a second chance. She nodded slowly, as if absorbing the weight of the promise. Then she disappeared into the bedroom, closing the door with a soft click. Trey sat back on the sofa, the inadequate cushions deflating beneath his weight, and allowed himself to finally exhale.